Actually, the Zoom and YouTube API was down all last week, so good thing we didn't have a council last week.
Really?
Yeah, the courts had to cancel some hearings because they were doing a similar thing to this. We're now live on YouTube. Does Mac need the ability to have his video on?
No, I mean, his is only going to be for just the regular meeting, not the special meeting or the one at 7:30. To be honest with you, that's the one that I think Ed's got a whole separate set of participants for the closed session.
So I'm going to assume our next session will probably be in City Hall.
No, I think we're set through the 30th, Matt. But Matt looks like he stepped away for a second.
Oh,
Sorry about that. I heard all that. So the resolution says through the end of June. And as of this afternoon, when I was starting to read through what the governor has, that executive order still is in effect that we can. I'll say it's always up to council what they will ultimately want to do on that front.
We did some employee meetings today in the council chambers. It was just kind of funny to be back in there again. It was actually nice.
Anyone heard from John?
Nope, not today.
he sent an email earlier, but
Yeah,
I assumed he was going to be here.
me too. He probably is just, I just want to make sure he's not having trouble.
One thing that I had forgotten about, there was an update on Zoom that required an update effective as of June 1, that if you were using an old version, I think it made you do the update now. So it could be that that's part of the issue.
So I have 6 o'clock.
I'm sending a text real quick,
Okay,
and then I'll just give me a minute.
okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If we don't hear from him, maybe we want to check the closed session that maybe he went to there.
Oh. Possibly.
I'm the host of this meeting, so I can't leave. So someone else would have to go check.
I think Ed's hosting that one, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Okay.
I can pop over that way if you want real quick and see.
Does that say Mike's?
Okay, I just received, says I can, everybody, but you can't see or hear me is what he's saying. Oh, there's John.
There he is. He's on there twice.
Yeah, he's got both of them up, it looks like, so. I see he's muted also. So, Clerk Lavoie, I guess I'll ask if we're, you're muted.
John, if you can hear me, I promoted you to a panelist. Try unmuting. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I'm here.
John, are you joined on 2 devices?
Yeah, I think so. I'm gonna have to sign off on one. Okay, how's that?
Yeah. Michelle, if you're ready, you're on mute, so. That's okay.
I was doing a last minute note. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, so it is 6 o'clock or 6:02, I think, or 3.
6
And we'll call the city council's special meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder,
Here.
Whitman,
Here.
Echoangeli,
Here.
Vining,
Here.
Jermaine,
Here,
Lamore,
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Present. So we have her here for a closed executive session, and we'll need a motion to do so. I guess unless there's any directions from Attorney Buds or Mr. Pascu.
Your Honor, the only point that I would make is that it will be a bit of a lengthy motion to go into closed session for all of the various items that were listed on the agenda. And I believe I provided a listing of the pending litigation items that will need to be included in that motion for the quarterly legal update.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we go into closed session regarding attorney-client privilege correspondence relative to Stacy Hall, Tina Marie Carroll, Mix Harm, Billings, Nichols, Berry, Blanksley, Cook, Mills, Smith, Smallword, Zaricki, and to discuss collective bargaining and the city attorney quarterly legal update.
Second.
Do we get all the list on there, Mr. Buds?
I would just make a recommendation, Your Honor, that it be to receive 2 items of attorney-client privilege correspondence, one regarding labor and one regarding other matters from my office. And then those cases were listed as part of the legal update, and also there was a reference to collective bargaining. So I think if there's a reference to 2 items of attorney-client privilege communication, that would be helpful for
I'll
clarifying.
amend the motion accordingly, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. And second was
I approve of that.
Councilman Moore. Okay, approves. Okay, there's a motion and a second for the item stated for closed executive session. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Ekuangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Jermaine,
Yes,
Lamore,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes, so we need to depart here and log in on our other Zoom item. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
All right, see you there.
Okay.
I'm not sure I know how to switch.
It would have been an email that Mr. Sell sent us. It has the information. I could give you a time maybe here, Paula, if you, before I get off this screen. It was sent at 1:20 PM.
I have the email right here, but that,
Okay. You'll have to log out and then come back. Leave meeting and then hit go back in. And Jake's still on, so I know he can maybe guide you. I see Clerk Lavoy, you're here. And we have the screen up. I just will, I can't tell if because I don't have a full screen, we'll need to remove this so you can see everybody when they come back, or at least they'd go to participant or something.
Mayor, I just turned off the screen share.
Oh, excellent. There we go. And then we'll, I'm sure that those that are watching at we're coming back into the session. We'll wait till all council members arrive and then we'll look for a motion. I think we're still waiting for at least one. Looking for Councilman Lamore. So we'll just wait a second here. I know, Jake, you'll be looking to see if you get some assistance that could be provided, or maybe if not, we'll have to send a text or something. Oh, there's Councilman Lamore. So our council is back. At this point, we need a motion to go back into our session. Looking for a hand and a raise. Councilman Michelangelo, if you would, please start us.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we go back into regular session.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Michelangelo, supported by Councilman Lamore. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Echoangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Jermaine,
Yes,
Lamore,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Mr. Buds, I'm looking to you because I know we talked about announcements. Is this where you need this coming back in?
I think that would be appropriate, Your Honor, before we adjourn this meeting. Yes.
Okay, so well, I'll give it a start and see if there's something that's further needed. During our closed session, one of the items that was listed on the quarterly updates was a list of pending litigations and a list of names for those, everybody's awareness. That topic was not discussed in closed session for all the parties that were individually listed in the motion that was made to go into closed session. So that's an informational that we're providing. The other items were discussed during the closed session. Mr. Buds, does that suffice?
Yeah, I think that suffices, Your Honor. The only thing I would add is that we will discuss that quarterly update at a future council meeting.
Thank you. And add that note as well, that it'll come at a future meeting, which will be posted, and the list of pending items so noted as at that time. So seeing that, I guess we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
second,
Motion by Councilman Moore, supported by Councilwoman Germaine, to adjourn the special meeting before we go into our regular city council meeting. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder, Whitman,
Yes.
Echoangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Jermaine,
yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. So we're adjourned for the special meeting. Clerk, I'll give a minute here to, if you're okay as
Thank you.
here to start.
All right, I think I'm ready, Your Honor.
Okay. We still have all council members. So at this point, we'll call the city council meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder,
Here.
Whitman,
Here.
Echoangeli,
Present.
Vining,
Here.
Jermaine,
Here,
Lamore,
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Present. This time, clerk, next item is, please.
So the invocation. Guide our working together, give us wisdom to make the right decisions, your understanding to listen to each other, and your compassion to promote the peace and welfare of the residents of this community.
Thank you. At this time, I see we have our flag in front with Councilman Moore. If we would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
flag
of
of
the
the United
States
States
of
of
America,
America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one
nation, under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
with liberty
and
and
justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk, next item, please.
Any amendments to the agenda?
I'll look first administration. Mr. Pastu, any amendments?
I have nothing to recommend, Your Honor.
Any council members, any comments or amendments? Councilman Michelangelo.
Your Honor, I have two motions. Do you want those under council comments or do you want those as part of the agenda?
Looking to Mr. Buds, under council action or just looking for the clerk as well?
Your Honor, I would say, generally speaking, I prefer them to be under council action, not for any real substantive reason, but just for the purpose that then it keeps things organized and comments remain comments. It sometimes becomes more difficult in the minutes or finding things historically if there's a motion inside council comments. So I would encourage it to be in council action as new items.
Okay, so as we get ready to make that motion to add and amend the agenda, does within the motion, is it the I guess relevant topic in what we might be looking for, Mr. Buds, or the motions themselves? I'm just looking to you and then Councilman.
Your Honor, I would say a general description of the substance that will be discussed on the subject of the motion would be fine, just as a heading for the item when it is placed later into the minute track system.
Thank you.
Your
I'm
Honor,
looking to
Your
clerk
Honor,
for
the first
as well
motion
for
is-
understanding. Mr. Councilman Michelangelo, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you. The first motion is going to be regarding the city's adoption of the housing law of the state of Michigan.
Very good.
And the second motion is in regards to making amendments to the rental inspection ordinance.
Thank you. There's a motion to amend the agenda.
Your Honor,
I'll
I'll make a
second.
motion to amend the agenda to include two items. First, regarding the adoption of the housing law for the state of Michigan, and second, amendments to the rental inspection program.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Before, I'm going to get the clerk Lavoy to make sure that that was received.
Yeah, it was received and I will call those items out after item 2747, which is the last item under council action.
Very good. Thank
And
you.
I'll add them in the order that they were discussed.
Thank you. So there's a motion and a second to amend those items. Any other amendments from council? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder? Councilperson Felder, I'm having a little trouble hearing you, just so
Try that, yes.
thank you. Whitman,
Yes.
Iko Angeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Jermaine,
yes,
Wilmore,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
Right.
Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is under public hearing, item 2750, ordinance number 20-005, public hearing for floodplain management. There are no comments on file in the clerk treasurer's office.
Thank you. Before I open the public hearing, again, mindful of the rules of the chamber for those that may be wanting to make comments on those, the 3 minutes, as well as identifying themselves as that goes forward. I see that we have participants. I'm not sure if there'll be comments or not, but this time I'll open the public hearing on item 2750, the ordinance number 20-005, floodplain management. And I'll ask if there's any comments from those that are on our virtual meeting here this evening, and I'm gonna leave that obviously to the organizers to monitor to see if there's any hands. I'll go to the participants as well. Any comments from those that are online wishing to make regarding this public hearing?
Your
Your
Honor,
Honor-
oh, go ahead, Jake. I think you're going to say what I was going to ask.
We have one citizen who is joined by phone, which we will need to allow them to talk to ask them as they can't unmute themselves.
I
Okay.
just did that, so they're now unmuted.
Okay, I'll ask that participant that's on by phone, if they have, just if there's an interest to speak in the public hearing, just say so. If not, we'll wait a few seconds and move forward. Any public comments? Hearing no comments regarding item 2750 in the public hearing. Any comments from council? With that, close the public hearing. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is under council action. It's item number 2738. Ordinance number 20-005, floodplain management, up for its final reading.
Thank you. Looking to council for a motion.
Your Honor,
Councilman Lamore.
yes, I make a motion regarding Council Action 2738, that ordinance 20-005, an ordinance to amend Chapter 353 flood hazard areas of the Code of the City of Monroe be placed on the floor for its final reading and adopted.
Second.
Yeah, okay, there's a motion by Councilman Moore, supported by Councilman Felder on item 2738. I should have asked, as we started this, I'll look to Mr. Pastu. I don't know if there was any additional comments. I know we talked at the last meeting on this, but if there's any additional comments.
Your Honor, I don't have anything to add beyond it, just a small technical change to the ordinance that was adopted in March regarding the floodplain.
Very good. There's a motion and a second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Michael
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Jermaine,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes,
All right, I'll go ahead and read the item, Your Honor.
thank you.
Ordinance 20-0025. I'm sorry, ordinance 20-005, chapter 353 flood hazard areas, an ordinance to amend chapter 353 flood hazard areas of the Code of the City of Monroe. The City of Monroe ordains.
Shall this ordinance pass?
Councilperson Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Michael
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Jermaine,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Clerk, next item, please. When
The
ready.
next item is item 2751, consideration to approve COVID-19 resolution number 8.
Thank you, Mr. Pastu, and maybe Mr. Buds, because I know that we have resolution number 8 now.
Your Honor, the administration was asking council to, adopt resolution number 8. There were 3 actions associated with it when submitted last Thursday. One was in compliance with Governor Whitmer's executive order 2020-100, which was an extension of the stay home, stay safe order through June 12th. Subsequently, this afternoon has been changed, but we were proposing to extend city facilities to be closed during that period of time. And that would include also the Sawyer House, ALCC, and the libraries that we have here within the city. The second we were asking was to cancel all park reservations, special events through September 9th. This would extend it through Labor Day weekend events. In talking with one of the organizers, as you know, I was candid with him. I says I wasn't sure we'd be able to approve having an assembly of people. Now it's from 10 to 100, but I still think that there would be some challenges with the parade as well as some of the events. And so what we were recommending is to extend it through September 9th. That would cover Labor Day weekend. And part of it would be providing the individual to recover some deposits related to entertainment and equipment that was being proposed. And then lastly, was to clarify waiver of fees for online payments that it did not include payment of property taxes. There was some ambiguity with our first payment. The intent was not to have that in there. We just thought it would be better to clarify that action. So having said that, I'm going to ask City Council if they would adopt this resolution as is, with the understanding that we may be looking at certainly opening City Hall prior to that date. I think you have given me some flexibility to that extent, but also this executive order today and is with a lot of retail businesses and restaurants. And there's been a lot of discussion. Some of you may have received some emails related to doing some possible sidewalk and road alterations to allow for more outdoor seating, plus a handful of other things. I'd ask you to adopt this, but I also would like you to consider maybe a special meeting next Monday night to go into some of the other detail, of which we may change and alter this resolution regarding the timeline. So I think the easiest order is just adopt it as is, and then we can talk further about maybe a special meeting on the June 8th.
So I see some hands raised. Before we get started, I'll start with Councilwoman Germaini, and then come around on this item. Councilwoman.
Vince, has the safety training been administered to the City Hall employees for the reopening? Is that completed?
Yes. Yep, we've done a few sessions with all of the employees now in City Hall.
Good, thank you.
Councilman Lamore.
Yes, I missed what the executive order was today from Governor Whitmer. I just am curious as to whether that included recreational areas within the city or not.
Well, I'll let, I have a copy in front of me, but I'm not going to speak when I have a city attorney here and the city manager. There was some references to that, but probably not as clear as just everything's a go. There's some, I'll say stipulations along with that. One of the items that was allowable for in dining in restaurants, but at a restricted capacity. So I'll stop there and look to Mr. Pastu if he has it, he can answer that on recreation maybe.
I'll gladly defer to Mr. Buds.
Okay, Mr. Buds.
Your Honor, there are some provisions that talk about outdoor recreational opportunities. I will say there are some about, well, I'll just say it, this is a good example. There are some provisions about youth sports that talk about if social distancing can be maintained and if they're outdoors as opposed to if they're indoors and close contact sports. I'm going to give full confession that this thing came out at about 3 o'clock this afternoon, and I probably need about 3 more reads to really make sense of all of it. What's important, I think, for City Council is that I will say in broad strokes, it's gone from an order that says you can't do anything except these resumed activities to an approach that's more, you can do pretty much everything but these prohibited activities or these restricted activities. So that's generally speaking, some things were effective immediately today. Some things are effective June 4th. Some things are effective June 8th. Some things don't have a date for future resumption. The other piece that I will say in my capacity that I found interesting in the language is that these things are all able to be done from a state government level, subject to any further local regulation. And I think that's going to be a key clause. And I had very brief discussion with the city manager, and I support the idea of a special meeting to talk about where have we been, where are we going, what does this order mean, as something that would be probably worthy of some more detailed discussion at this point. But I'm in support of the city manager's idea of, this was the resolution before the council, which obviously we could not predict. I'll say another curveball coming from the governor's office. I will say I didn't expect the last extension, and that I didn't expect this to be the rescission of that to come today. But obviously we all have to be flexible and deal with those situations. But that's a long way of saying I would support the idea of adopting the current resolution with the understanding of a soon to be scheduled special meeting to further discuss appropriate measures.
Thank you, Mr. Buds. I'm just going to read that sentence there because I think it goes right to your point. Is there's a few paragraphs that start off, unless otherwise prohibited by local regulation, and then it talks about what they are. Some are swimming pools, some are libraries, some are museums, but they have the date of June 8th, which is the date that Mr. Pastu, manager, is proposed when we come back and a chance to really digest all this that came out. And it is Executive Order 2020-110 for those that want to see what came out. But I'm kind of in agreement there with Mr. Buds, and we have time. So I think Councilman Moore, you asked the question, so I'll give you the follow-up first and see if there's others.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. In light of what the governor has sent out, it sounds like she's opening it up to outdoor activities, which would include, but not limited to, tennis, pickleball, things like that, which many residents were sending us many messages regarding. Do you think that we could possibly get those courts opened up in light of her order that she sent out today? I mean, based on what based on what I'm hearing here, it sounds like those two activities fit the bill, so to speak. There would be no reason to keep them closed.
Well, I guess it's always in the details, and that's why the city attorney would review it. And that's number 7 of there. It says, unless otherwise, outdoor parks and recreation facilities may open, provided they make the reasonable modifications necessary to enable employees and patrons not part of the same household to maintain 6 feet of distance from one another, and it goes on. But as I said, the date on these looks like it's June 8th. So we've stayed with what the executive orders have been as far as the dates, and whether we do that Monday is not going to change where this is at. I'm going to look at Mr. Buds and any thoughts, or Mr. Pastu, about the activities. I don't know if we've made the reasonable modifications yet that would be required as well. So, Mr. Buds or Mr. Pastu, any comments?
From our end of it, from administration's end of it, it would be helpful to know to understand and digest the executive order before making a decision. It kind of looks like it's leaning that way, and the dates needs to be, certainly confirmed as well. In part why I was suggesting another special meeting next Monday night, if council is available, is okay. So you lose a couple days to implement it, but at least we know we've got the I's dotted and T's crossed.
Thanks, Mr. Pastu. And Councilman Clench has a question I'll go to next, but I will say that it was 4 o'clock or so, and I understand a call had already come into recreation. So those are things. Councilman Clench, if one moment, please. I see that Mr. Buds has his hand up. Maybe some clarification that might help some questions to follow. Attorney Buds.
Thank you, Your Honor. The other piece is that there are probably some questions as to whether these activities involve close contact of persons or not. For instance, there's a subsection E that talks about indoor facilities, indoor services or facilities, or outdoor services or facilities involving close contact of persons for amusement or other recreational or entertainment purposes, such as amusement parks, arcades, bingo halls, bowling alleys, indoor climbing facilities, indoor dance areas, skating rinks, trampoline parks, and other similar recreational or entertainment facilities. Now, we could probably have a fairly healthy debate about, does tennis or pickleball fall into those type of things? We also have obviously the skating parks to deal with, and I guess I'll say at this point, my view is you really have a question of how close the contact is, and how much touching of the same equipment occurs are probably things that would fall in my mind to conducting a proper analysis of those type of items.
Thank you. Councilman Calangi, and then I'll come back around to Councilman Morgan. Councilman.
Yeah, Your Honor, my comment is the city's taken a very measured approach to COVID. And I would prefer giving the city administration a week, agreeing with the city manager, having a special meeting to give them a week to analyze the executive order, and then come back with recommendations rather than try to push the issue this evening. Because to be honest with you, I saw the news feed. I haven't even had a chance to review it myself.
Thank you, Councilman. It is 7 pages long, so there's as I think Mr. Buds made that, I guess the real important comment was, it wasn't about what you can't do, it's what, here's what you can do, except a couple of things. It's an entire shift in reading, and I think it's important that we understand it. Councilman Lamore.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you again. I know that the skate parks, I noticed that people have been climbing the fences and going into them and utilizing them. That could be put to a halt pretty quickly too by, allowing those to open pretty quickly. And I understand Councilman Michaelangeli's concern with just letting the city read through the dialogue that's been sent to us. However, I think there may be some danger in having those people climbing the fences and going over to utilize those facilities too. That's just a concern of mine from that standpoint.
Okay, I see Councilwoman Whitman, you have your hand up.
Yes, I think that we should also take into consideration that we had this talk with Parks and Recreation, and they made certain adjustments and should be included in our decision to open or restart anything.
I agree. We need their input as well. And I think with it coming out this afternoon, I think we have some items coming forward. I thought there was a new hand, but I don't see it now. Councilman Michaelangeli?
Your Honor, I'll move that we approve COVID-19 resolution number 8.
Second.
Second,
Okay, there it is. Councilman Michaelangeli, motion or support by Councilman Felder. Any other comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
yes.
Michaelangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
yes.
I'm sorry, Jermaine,
Yes.
Lamore,
No,
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is item 2673, proposed First Amendment to Water Agreement between the City of Monroe and City of Petersburg.
Mr. Pastu, any review?
Your Honor, we're recommending City Council approval of this amendment to the water agreement with the City of Petersburg. As you know, they've been working with the U.S. Rural Development Agency regarding a plan to finance basically a complete overhaul of their water system, including mains, hydrants, valves, meters. Within the system, they would be looking at a loan that would have a repayment period of over 40 years. And after a lot of discussion with Mr. Leroy, City Attorney Buds, we've reached a general understanding and agreement to extend the agreement through the year 2060. There's a change in the multiplier that the city would charge Petersburg, reflective of what the rate and cost of service would be, as well as the ability in the future to have other increases based on a cost study. And then there were some other aspects regarding clarification regarding aspects of where the city's responsibility begins and ends related to the Petersburg water system. So with that, we would ask council to consider approval of that First Amendment to the agreement with Petersburg. I don't know if Mr. Leroy or Mr. Buds have anything to add since they were an integral part of reaching this agreement.
I see Mr. Buds has his hand up. We'll start there for information, and then I'll see if there's questions before motion. Mr. Buds.
Thank you, Your Honor. I had 2 items as it relates to this matter. The first being that for some reason I realized when we got to the agenda packet, the PDF version, I will just say that, for lack of a better word, squeezed together some of the words, which is not the way it will look on the final version. I'm not sure what happened in a conversion there. So if that was on my end, I apologize on that front. The other is that we asked in the fact sheet that Mr. Pastu and Mr. Leroy submitted that there be approval for any final language changes that are generally consistent with the document in consultation with my office and with the two of them. The main issue there, so that I can give a bit of background, is that Petersburg is reviewing this agreement, I believe, with their city council this evening as well. I don't expect any issues, but one item is that the agreement, and there's a clause that addresses this, says that there will be, that the term will last of this agreement as long as their repayment loan, which that will not begin until they close on that loan transaction. I've asked Petersburg's representatives for the anticipated timeline for that, and they expect late August or early September. And so I just wanted to explain that that may be one of those I will call relatively minor modifications to set what the date of when this 40-year extension would become effective.
Okay, I'll see if there's any questions. I know Councilwoman Moore, you have your hand up, so I think it's for a motion. Any questions? I don't see any. Councilwoman Moore.
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the First Amendment to the water agreement between the City of Monroe and City of Petersburg, and that the mayor of the city and the clerk treasurer be authorized to sign the agreement on behalf of the City of Monroe, and authorize the city manager and director of water and wastewater utilities, in consultation with the City of Monroe attorney, be authorized to make any final changes following consideration of Petersburg and the USDA-RD.
Support.
There's a motion by Councilwoman Moore, supported by Councilman Michelangeli, on item 2673, the water agreement as stated. Any final comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Michelangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Jermaine,
yes,
Lamore,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is 2749 Lazy Boy Site Redevelopment Phase 1A Infrastructure Bid Award.
Mr. Pastu, if you would, if there's any introductions or comments for council.
If I may, Your Honor, yes, we're asking City Council to approve this agreement for accepting the low bid with Salem Bean Trucking and Excavating for Phase 1A related to the Lazy Boy site development. Bids were solicited in developing the project scope with the developer for the site, the city, as well as Manick and Smith Group, along with the low bid that was requested. Is an understanding too is that working with the subcommittee, it's been formed whether there'll be some changes related to some aspects of the project. The contractor will not likely start construction on the site until sometime in July. I will tell you the demolition contractor is really getting ready to roll here starting tomorrow with the demolition. And so, we asked to get this in place with the understanding that there may be some modifications and changes, more than likely lessening the cost if we narrow it up a little bit as you come from Telegraph east along what the Holiday extension is. So, but it includes all of the underground work, water, sewer, as well as putting in place stormwater and some detention work that will serve future phases of the site development.
Thank you. Councilwoman Jermaine, your hands up, comments or a motion?
comments actually. In light of the steering committee and the discussion we had, do we need to change the wording at the end? Because MKSK, we could change the road. Does that need to be added at the end? Or can we, does that affect the action?
I'm looking for the reference that Mr. Castillo or Mr.
I will tell you, whether you incorporate it into a language or not, administration's understanding is that there's likely going to be some changes related to that scope of work as we look at it with our subcommittee. The one thing I do have to remind you is once it's in place, and we're settling on this, is that we will, in accordance with our development agreement, be approaching the developer to upfront the cash associated with this construction work. So I think it's a consideration that, we need to remind council of, is that the developer will be upfronting this, the funds associated with this infrastructure and ultimately recouped down the road through brownfield proceeds.
Councilwoman,
So in your opinion, we don't need to reword anything? on
As
this?
long as you trust me, I think, and I say that, I know that there's, we got some things to look at, and
I'm looking at Mr. Buds as well, because I'm not with the committee on the discussion. If something was to be added, what would that be exactly? And for the committee, I mean.
Your Honor, if I may, so the approval is to approve the infrastructure to Salenbean Trucking and Excavating with an amount and with a total contingency encumbrance. At this point, I'm comfortable with the language, with the understanding that Mr. Pastu has, I'll say, indicated to council that the contractor is aware that there may be the need for change orders, and as long as council's comfortable with that understanding, I think that matter can proceed.
Okay, I understand now that Mr. Pastor is the contract regarding the potential contract.
Your Honor?
Council Michelangelo, I think you have a comment, or?
Yeah, I do, Your Honor. I guess I take a little bit different approach to it. I would prefer that we put a tag on this motion that basically the community understands that there could be changes to the road site and stormwater design based on review and recommendation from MKSK. I appreciate, Vince acknowledging that, but I think it's important enough that when we approve a contract for up to $860,000, we need to be pretty specific on what our expectations are.
So I'll look back to what was said again. The committee has I would say, had the conversation. Mr. Buds, I mean, what you've heard from Councilman Germani and Councilman Michelangelo, what that might be as far as a motion, as it's obviously written here, but what would be the appropriate add on?
Your Honor, if that would be documented at this point in time, what I would suggest is that the motion be as recommended, with an indication that the bid award be subject to acknowledgement by the contractor that change orders will potentially be necessary based on the work of MKSK and in consultation with the city administration regarding any potential infrastructure changes as discussed based on the work of MKSK.
Okay, with all that, I'm looking at the council members to go make the motion. Councilman Lamore, I see his lower hand, but I think you had your hand up. I'll take your comment and we'll go forward.
Yeah, I'm just curious, this limits us to $860,000 on phase one? Or if there's a change order, obviously change orders include, incursion and costs. So is this wording going to be good enough, knowing that we could possibly have change orders?
Mr. Buds might be.
to be honest,
I understand the add on the motion indicates that there could be. But go ahead, Mr. Buds.
Your Honor, I'll defer in a moment to Mr. Pastu for comments on the substance, but my understanding is that likely any change orders on this front would likely be reductions rather than increases. And at this point in time, based on that, I would suggest that the amount and the contingency, unless Mr. Pastu is aware of any other facts beyond those that I know, I would suggest that the change orders are likely going to be of substance and reduction in the infrastructure work that will be necessary to comply with any work done by MKSK as far as site planning, and are not likely to cause us to exceed the amount with the contingency.
if I may, Your Honor.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm fine with the extension language on there. I do think it will probably result again in a reduction if based on some of the discussions we've had heretofore. If by chance it does increase, we do have to bring it back to City Council. Mm-hmm. So, at least gets a good competitive bid lined up, ready to roll, and I think get them ready to roll as soon as the demolition is near completion here in early July. So, I think we got enough time to look at the design and make whatever modifications we have.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I agree with that part of it. So looking for a motion then if there's no other dialogue. Councilman Langley?
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we move to accept the contract for Lazy Boy Infrastructure Phase 1A awarded to Salabine Trucking and Excavating in the amount of $748,339.79, and that a total of $860,000 be encumbered to include a 15% contingency, authorize the mayor and clerk treasurer to authorize the contract on behalf of the city, and the director of financing to make any of the authorized changes to accounts and necessary budget amendments. And further, that this action is taken with the understanding that there may be changes to the road, site, and stormwater design that may occur based on review and recommendation from MKSK and the city administration.
Second.
Okay, it's a motion by Councilman Klein, supported by Councilman Germaini on item 2749, the Lazy Boy site redevelopment as stated. I appreciate all the comments and the information provided here. Thank you all. Other comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Michaelangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
yes,
Jermaine,
yes,
Lamore,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is, hold on one second, item 2747, 2020 concrete paving program bid award.
Mr. Pastu?
Your Honor, we're requesting council to approve the 2020 concrete paving bids for that were opened last week in the amount of $1,660, $1,660,000 to be encumbered plus a 4% contingency. I'm sorry, that number included the contingency. There were 5 bidders for this project. The main project included Toll Street reconstruction, Lorraine to Rossler, West Lorraine Street, Toll to Rossler, Hawkins Street reconstruction, Toll to Rossler, Harrison Street construction, 8th to 4th Street, alley reconstruction east of Monroe from 3rd to 1st, and then Mason Run Phase 2 sidewalk infill, what we talked with last fall using some brownfield funds that we have dedicated for that area. So with that, while the bids are higher than the engineer's estimate, city administration's comfortable going forward. You know, as a contingency, we looked at maybe postponing Washington Street, although we weren't looking at doing that till in the fall, but our next spring. But at the same time, I do think we can proceed forward with the project for at least this year. They're good competitive bids, even though higher than the engineer recommendation.
Councilman Felder, you have your hand up, and then I'll go to Councilman Lamore.
I don't know for a motion. If
Oh,
there's-
okay, I'll hold and see if there's a comment. He's looking at the motion. No comments that I see. Mr. Pastu, I just have a quick comment, 'cause I know we talked about it at the work session, capital improvements, and then of course things change in finances. We understand all that. One of the items that was on for this year again was some sidewalk replacement. And if I recall, there were some comments to, you know, there may be some emergency spot repairs, but that may be something as the year goes on in the fall. Is that still on the list? It's not in this bid, I understand, but it's something that may come up.
We still have it on the list at this point in time, but you know, we'll reevaluate and talk with city council with where we are in relationship to available funds.
Thank you. Councilman Felder, if you would.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that a contract for the 2020 concrete paving program be awarded to Salabine Trucking in the amount of $1,595,296.07, and that a total of $1,660,000 be encumbered for contingency. That the mayor and clerk treasurer be authorized to execute the contracts on behalf of the city, and that the director of finance be authorized to set up any necessary accounts and make any necessary budget amendments to complete the funding packages as described above.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Felder, supported by Councilman Lamore. On item 2747, the 2020 concrete paving program bid award. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Michaelangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
yes,
Jermaine,
yes,
Lamore,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Clerk, next item, I think is the two amended additions.
Yes. So the first item is, it doesn't have a number, we'll add that, but it was the adoption of housing law of the state of Michigan.
I think I'll go to Councilman Michaelangeli, your motion on that, see if there's any additional comments, and if not. we
Your
can-
Honor, based on the correspondence from the city attorney, he pointed out that, we have in place the International Property Maintenance Code and some other blight ordinances, but one that we're missing, which provides, fills in some of the gaps relative to inspection, enforcement, and compliance, is the housing law for the state of Michigan. So my motion is that we have the city administration and city attorney prepare an ordinance to adopt the housing law for the state of Michigan.
Okay, thank you. I'll see if there's a second, and then we'll look at any comments.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion by Councilman Michaelangeli, supported by Councilman Lamore. Any questions from council before or understanding needed before we go for a roll call? I see no hands. Councilwoman Vining. That's good.
I apologize, Your Honor. I always forget how to raise my hand.
You're okay. I saw your hand. That's good.
Okay, yeah. So I just want to be clear. Did John say the city attorney recommended that we adopt the state of Michigan housing law? Because I'm not familiar with the state of Michigan housing law, and
Sure,
I'd
that's-
really like to read the law before I vote on something like that.
Okay, so I think it's a good question. Maybe Mr. Buds can get, he got his hand up now, I see. Maybe a review of what that is. It came in relation to the conversation. Mr. Buds, if you could provide some information.
Thank you, Your Honor. Based on giving some additional background, the city presently has adopted the International Property Maintenance Code as its main option for enforcing issues that include issues relating to the property maintenance and structures. For those, I'll just give as background. It was the ordinance that we used in terms of dealing with the properties at 44 and 48 South Monroe Street, and we've used it with a number of other properties. The correspondence that Councilman Michaelangeli is referring to did also say that there is another option for the city to have in, I'll say, its quiver, another arrow in the quiver of property maintenance and particularly dangerous buildings issues. If I understand the motion correctly, it's not that the council is voting to approve anything tonight, but merely directing that I would prepare along with the city administration an ordinance that would adopt the housing law for purposes of applying to single family and other small dwellings, such that we would eventually have the appointment of a hearing officer that could conduct dangerous building hearings. That would be in addition or another option from the International Property Maintenance Code, which we presently use for the demolition of structures that involves the Construction Board of Appeals. And I think that that's background as far as where we would go. That would obviously come before the council for both a first and second reading as far as an ordinance. And there would also then need to be a process to appoint a hearing officer or hearing officers and perhaps an appeals board, all as part of that process.
So as I understand for Councilwoman, you're voting to get, I think what you're asking for is that information, what a proposed ordinance would look like, and have the ability to get through that before we take a vote for it to implement.
That's correct.
Yeah. Councilwoman? Oh, okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Absolutely.
That cleared that up.
There's a motion, and I didn't write my note for the second.
I got it.
Councilman Lamore, second. Any other questions? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Michaelangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes,
Jermaine,
yes,
Lamore,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
All right. The next item is the second addition to the agenda, and it is to have city administration amend the rental inspection ordinance.
Councilman Michelangelo, if your motion, then we see if there's some dialogue.
Yes. Thank you, Your Honor. The purpose of this motion, this is really based on the issue that we talked about at our last council meeting relative to 229 Harrison Street, where the property owner did not carry any insurance and the house burnt down. And now the city is at least to the initial part of the demolition is going to be paid for by the taxpayers rather than the property owner. The purpose of this motion is to amend the rental inspection ordinance to require rental property owners to carry property insurance on their rental properties as a condition of getting a certificate of inspection. And it goes with the idea that rental property is a business. Businesses do carry business insurance. For someone to have a rental property in the city of Monroe and to get a certificate of inspection, which allows them to rent it, they have to prove that they have property insurance that would cover the city in the event of any damage or fire to their property. So we're not going to, as a taxpayers, we're not going to have to pay the cost of demolition. That'll be something that they work out with their insurance provider. So that's the motion. Again, the motion is to have the city administration and the city attorney research and prepare proposed amendments to the rental inspection ordinance, including a requirement that a rental property owner be required to maintain property insurance as a condition of receiving a certificate of inspection from the city of Monroe.
Second.
So there's a motion by Councilman Michelangelo, supported by Councilman Lamore. And if I heard correctly, again, this is to come back with us with that amendment to the ordinance at a later date to adopt or not. But this gives the framework to the council members to, again, be able to vet through that, read it, and understand before it's final. Any questions from council? Any no questions? There is a motion and a second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Nicolangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Jermaine,
yes,
Lamore,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is the consent agenda. And for item B, approval of payments to vendors, the amount should read $721,692.45. 721,692.45.
Thank you. Are there any items on the consent agenda that council wishes to have pulled for further discussion? Any items from council? Seeing none, with the participants that are online, I see there is one phone still active here. Is there any that are on line of the virtual meeting that wish to have items pulled from the consent agenda? See no hands or indication on the screen. No other comments? Clerk, well, I'm sorry, we need a motion. Councilman Hilbert.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that all items on the consent agenda be accepted, placed on file, and any resolutions.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Felder, supported by Councilman Moore, that all items on the consent agenda be accepted, placed on file, recommendations carried out. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Nicolangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Jermaine,
yes,
Lamore,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
I have no further items, Your Honor.
Thank you. And we have council comments. It is June, so Councilman Felder, you're first up.
Thank you, Your Honor. Since council last met, we've had a series of tragedies, both here in the city and our country. We've recently had an officer wounded in the line of duty, and first and foremost, we hope for her recovery and her family's well-being. It's important to keep in mind as we discuss this evening about the benefits and compensation we offer to our employees, what they're giving us in return, and especially for our emergency responders. It's imperative and critical that we keep them in our thoughts, and that we appreciate the work that they're doing for our city every day. Tensions exist more broadly between certain groups, and I hope that as we seek justice for all, we do so peacefully and recognize that whatever disagreements exist, that we still live with one another and we're neighbors. So please try and keep that in the forefront of your mind with whatever is coming up in the next few weeks. Thank you, Your Honor. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Whitman.
Yeah, the only thing that I have is that this is a very humbling time for us. I mean, the whole world really, with this virus and, you know, all the other things that are going on. And I feel like we have been set back 10 years. But I feel that we are so fortunate to live in Monroe, because we've had people protesting, but it has not been anything like what other cities are going through. And mostly I've heard compassion, you know, even for the police. Even though an officer was arrested, there's still people that can see both sides. And so I'm just grateful at this time that we are who we are and doing as well as what we are. And I don't know if the chief was going to speak afterwards, but could we have an update on Renee?
Thank you, Councilwoman. I know that Chief McCollum is here. I'm looking to Mr. Kester if that's something he's going to provide or moving
I
forward.
think I would be fine with that. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. First, I'd just like to start. Thank you, Mayor and Vince, and certainly Human Resource Director Peggy Howard for all of their assistance during this trying time for us. The outreach has been tremendous, and we thank you all. I personally want to thank you for everything you've done and reaching out to us and checking in on us. So thank you. We've had good days. We've had bad days with Corporal Peterson. Today was one of the bad ones. She did have a setback. Remains in serious condition. So our thoughts and prayers remain with her and her family, and certainly our family here, her husband, Ken, who's not left her side. So her prognosis hasn't changed in her timeline for recovery, but she's had some setbacks medically. And again, we're praying for, you know, this being our second critical incident of this type in 6 months. The first one certainly still fresh with people involved in that, in which Corporal Peterson was the officer who drove those injured officers to the hospital here at ProMedica on that date. So, and as Councilman Whitman acknowledged, the national scene, certainly, you know, as police leadership, we denounce any type of horrendous acts, and it's certainly tough to watch those images. So, but you know that we're confident that justice will prevail in that case, just like we know it will here locally. So, certainly, thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you. If there's any questions you have, I'd certainly be available to answer them if I can.
Thank you, Chief.
Councilwoman Whitman, other comments?
No, I have none.
Thank you. Councilman Michelangelo.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think Andrew's summarized my comments as well regarding what's happening locally and nationally, and the idea that we just need to remind ourselves of who we are, our neighbors, and remain civil and obedient. And my thoughts and prayers go out to Renee. It's sad that in the last 6 months we've had 2 shootings in the police department. I just hope things improve in the future. But I want everybody to stay safe. And now that we're starting to open up the state again, maintain social distancing, wear a mask where appropriate, and just stay safe. I mean, it's a very troubling time. That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Vining, thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. I wanted to revisit a little bit this motion about the rental property. I know that the city attorney, he talked about he needed to look at the legalities of being able to do that. And you know, I'm always in defense and of renters and good landlords. And I just wanted to remind the council that the last time we were here, where there was a fire in the city and we had to take upon the cost for the demolition, that was a homeowner. So I just always want to be careful about not trying to, and don't get me wrong, I am actually in agreement with the motion that was made. I think that that's important because that is a business and it should be insured. But when we're talking about these things, I just want to be careful that we're not being one-sided. And if we're going to apply these things, because it wasn't too long ago that we were developing the rental inspection program, or at least revamping it. And we talked about all of these codes and whatnot. And so I just always want to be careful that we're not putting all of the burden on the landlords, because they'll just pass it on to the renters. You know what I mean? They'll pass those costs on to the renters. And, you know, that's their business, how they run their business. But I just want to be careful about not making the situation one-sided. That, you know, we just had that house on 2nd Street. I believe that that was owner occupied, you know, and we did have to, I don't know what the outcome was, but we discussed the fact of having to pay for that as a city. And, you know, I didn't really, I just want to make sure that we keep a fair and equal balance on that. So I just wanted to say that, and also to send my thoughts and prayers out to the people of the city of Monroe and the entire country as we go through these trying times. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Jermaine.
I share the same sentiments as the rest of the council as far as the city and the world, what we're going through. And the fact that our police department has been through a lot in the last 6 months, and I commend them as well. There is a fundraiser. They're selling t-shirts online for Renee. If you go to www.goodinc.com/Renee, by June 15th, buy a t-shirt, and that is for her, going for her expenses. And thoughts and prayers for all of us. That's all, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Moore.
Thank you, Your Honor. Obviously, my prayers go out to Corporal Peterson. I hope and I know that the city council will allow all resources that are needed be given to her. And I'd also like to state that there were some officers that took care of her on the scene. I want to make sure that those officers are commended, because what they did was save her life. And I personally, and I know from the council, I want to thank them somehow, some way. Without them, she wouldn't be here today, and I can't thank them enough for their effort. Also, another little tagline here to Chief. If anybody saw what the Genesee County Sheriff did this past weekend, basically Flint, and how he addressed the protesters and what he did, I thought was amazing. And his efforts were great. He basically said, I agree with you. I'm with you. I want to protest with you. Let's make a parade out of this. And if anybody looks online and sees exactly what he did and how he brought that community together, I thought it was amazing. So just something we can think about if ever needed. It's another tool in our arsenal to take into effect that what he did was just awesome. On another whole news front here, as far as opening up downtown, and I'm not certain who received some of these emails. I think, Andrew, you may have received this from Chip Williams. I know I did. He made some suggestions as to how we could help out the restaurants downtown and their parking situations, and alleviating not the parking situation, but basically the outdoor situation where they can actually have more people sit outside. I think there were some great suggestions there. If anybody would like that email, I definitely forward it to you. I think they were, like I said, great suggestions, and I think it's something that can help and hopefully pay back a little bit of our restaurants downtown and getting them ready to open up back again here. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. Yep, I'm next. So a few thoughts. I'll start with the downtown. So since we're far up, I received that email as well as probably 3 or 4 other emails and a couple of phone contacts. I think many of the business owners are thinking the same way. I think today's executive order that comes out and that moves forward. The one I talked to today was understood that, so it's going to allow seating inside, but it's still some of the outside seating is looking to how to make some additional customers be able to come in an outdoor venue. I did speak with the city manager as well, send an email on that. You received it as well. Probably everybody did. And the idea is how do we move forward at what we're doing regarding the food. Or I don't know if my volume go out? Okay, I'm good. Sorry, I'm getting notes here. Says it's not working. So I think the downtown we have to take that into consideration as well, and providing that their businesses are impacted. And I think collectively we want to have one response to all as we try to get back 5, 6 responses. And I know City Manager Bastu, Mr. Cochran has had some conversation as well as Annette Knowles, and we need to get that message out here quickly regarding that, so we can jumpstart the best we can. The DDA did at the last meeting support some information and funding for information to go out to bring people back until the Monroe is open in the way in which that can be. So that's going as well. Right, still getting the speakers not working, but I'm looking and nobody's shaking their head, so I say it's still working. Is that correct? Thanks. So, so I just wanted to address that I know that there's some things we need to do. So, Mr. Pastor and I talked about some of the follow-up to other light and grass items, and in the process that we have, I think we're going to look at how we address those. I think many residents are doing well, and yet some others that we have to stay in tune to, and the demolition list I know will come up soon as well. So something to look forward to. So on the events that continue to occur within not only here, I'll start with our city officer, Cole Peterson. My thoughts, prayers, as well as was said very well by all the council members. It is going to be a long, long recovery. And so we have to continue to think about her. The setbacks, we just need to be positive that we continue with it. Great work by not only our officers in response, our support from the law enforcement in the countywide community that supported and arrived quickly. Councilman Moore, you're correct. The first 2 city officers, in essence, saved Corporal's life by being there and taking appropriate action. One of the parts I want to talk about our police department and really all of our local law enforcement, as this was developing and moving forward, as the suspects were fleeing and still are, those officers apprehended without further injury, not only the officers, but there was an injury or a shot fired regarding the suspect. I think there was tolerance and restraint in that. I think about that and I look at them in our national problem that we have. And looking at certain departments, I shouldn't say departments, officers, it's individuals. And it's just horrendous to watch that video and to see what happens. And while we have that action going on, I also look in the broad sense, those that stood around and did nothing. And that's where I think in the law enforcement community, and my experience, when there was somebody that under the circumstances, and these by no means are acceptable, that we watch on TV, but the other officers to step in and take action. And I think that's what we do as residents as well. We have to take action on the other ends. But we also want to make sure that during our demonstration, it's done in a fashion that gets our message across, but also done peacefully. Speaking of that, I know there's been some information put out regarding some demonstrations that are forthcoming. There was one over the weekend that kind of started. I understand Thursday there was one. And I know the police department is preparing, and we want to make that to where people have the ability to have their voice heard in an appropriate fashion. I've read some of the posts, and it sounds like they want to do it in that fashion, and I believe that they do. It's always the external or others that don't have that same vision that cause the problems that I've seen in other cities, and that's not what we want to happen. I know that our community embraces people's ability to speak their thoughts, and also that we have the ability to do that in an appropriate and safe fashion. Because then as we in our responses here to make the community safe for all the residents, business downtown, and everybody. So I bring that up because in one sense, it's just what we see going on, we all should be appalled about when there's actions such as that. At the same time, recognizing here in our department, some of the actions recently and life-threatening actions, how the department responds, not only there, but throughout, the officers from the county, throughout the county, and I commend them as that ended without further injury, and I think there was restraint in doing so. Those are my comments for this evening. It's great to see the council members. I hope all are doing well, safe and healthy. Look forward as we can move forward in the city hall and get not only employees in, but also in the right fashion that we allow residents to come in the right volume and level. And I think that'll be done appropriately through the administration. Clerk, I'll stop. Clerk Treasurer Boyd, please.
I think it's all been said. So out of respect for everything that we have going on, I'll refrain from making additional comments. But I will say that the elections are very important, and it's another way for people's voices to be heard. Currently, there's a little bit of confusion. So briefly, I'm just going to try to clear it up a little bit. The city of Monroe mailed permanent absentee applications to any voter that's on the permanent absentee voter list. That will be a green piece of paper in a white and red envelope. The state, the Bureau of Elections, is supposed to be mailing applications to the remaining 13,000 voters registered in the city of Monroe. I have been calling them, and they have been unable to give me a date and when those will be mailed. So I am following up on it. If anyone gets one and receives one in the mail, please let me know. But in the meantime, that is still coming. If you don't want to wait for the state to mail one and you aren't on the permanent absentee list, or you're just not sure, that's fine. You can call our office, 734-384-9137, or you can go to the City of Monroe website, and very good, City of Monroe website, and you can so you can find a link to the application there. And thank you, Councilperson Lamore. That's the kind of is a quick view of what it looks like if you're unsure, because I know for some people they're new to the AV application process. And that's all.
Michelle, I have a question.
Sure.
Can those be dropped off in the Dropbox on the side of City Hall?
Yes, I would encourage that. The mail is fine as well. We've been receiving tax payments through the mail and applications through the mail. But yeah, Dropbox is a great suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Pastu.
Your Honor, are we okay with June 8th if I look around to council?
Is it fine with me? I'm looking at council. Yes, I see all yeses.
Okay, we'll put something together out of our office. 6 o'clock would be a good start.
Yeah.
I got a handful of items, but certainly
I see
talking
big
about
yeses to that.
Yeah. Certainly the downtown business reopening, COVID-19 resolution, and a handful of other things that I'll put together for us. Promising not a 3-hour meeting, but clearly some meaty items to discuss. So, and again, our thoughts, with Officer Peterson, given these circumstances, and a great appreciation for Chief McCormick and his leadership, overseeing a very trying time, and his concern not only for Officer Peterson and her family, but also the rest of the troops. This is pretty remarkable. If you've got 40 sworn officers and 3 of them have taken bullets in the last 6 months, that's like unheard of. And so the chief, and congratulate, I shouldn't say congratulations, but a great appreciation for keeping the team together. That's tough. And I appreciate the commitment. It's not easy. So, with that, I don't have anything else, but just continued prayers and going forward. So.
I see that Councilman Moore has his hand up. He may have a question for administration. So Councilman Moore.
Do we need a motion for a special meeting next week?
Mr. Buds?
Your Honor, it could either be done by a motion here, or it can be done through our normal process of scheduling a special meeting by the designation of either two council persons or by the mayor and a council person during the week.
Thank you. I'm looking to Clerk Treasurer Lavoy if you have a preference or something you want to see handled now.
We can wrap it up right now tonight if council prefers.
All right, Councilman Moore, you asked, so your thoughts.
I'm ready to make a motion if you're ready.
Yep.
I'll second.
What's the motion?
I'll make a motion that we have
Make the motion.
Monday night, June 8th, regarding COVID-19 and what other items were there? I'm sorry.
And other items that the administration brings.
And any other item that the city administration brings forward.
I'll second.
There's a second by Councilman Drainey, but the time, please.
6 p.m.
Clerk Treasurer, you're good?
Good.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder,
I think Mr. Buds has,
Mr. Buds has a comment.
I think it might have something to do with the inclusion of the closed items that we missed.
Thank you.
Well, we can either do that at that meeting. Actually, my clarification was going to be that under our current resolutions, and my recommendation would be, but just for clarification in light of the fact that we are having a relaxing of some of the executive orders, that meeting, at least my interpretation would be still via our Zoom platform, as long as that executive order were not to be rescinded in the meantime.
Very good. I look to the motion, Mr. Lamore, or Councilman Moore, if that's acceptable with the addition.
It is acceptable.
Councilman Germaini?
Yes.
Okay, and I think Councilman Felder, your point will be that something we may have to post the special meeting, making sure we'll have those discussion items for next week.
Yeah, if it's amenable to Councilman Lamore and Councilwoman Germain, sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Right, I got you. Mr. Buds, anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder,
Yes.
Bittman,
Yes.
Michaelangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Next is citizen comments, and I'll see if participants, if there's any comments from those that are on as attendees or participants.
Your Honor, I do see one raised hand, and I believe the clerk treasurer is making action so that person can take appropriate comment.
Yes, so if you call him, Your Honor, he'll just have to unmute himself.
Okay, I see a name. It's unmuted, so your name, please, and comments for the council. You're not hearing. So a way to communicate to the person a message.
Muted.
His microphone is off.
Yeah.
Yeah, the microphone's off.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Here we go. I think we have you. Please, your name and comment.
Chris Bika, 12148 North Lake Shore Drive, LaSalle, Michigan. I'm going to talk on behalf of 39 South Middle Grove, McGady's Town Pub. Good evening, Mayor and Council. First of all, I want to maybe bring to light a few ideas as far as we reopen maybe the city and downtown Monroe. First one, like about the Labor Day, things are happening so quick. And I know our city manager had said, that could change as far as like the Labor Day parade and such, because look how fast she didn't give us much time to reopen things. You know, she gave us a week, June 8th. But anyway, and obviously a lot of us didn't read everything and didn't get a chance to read it. So that's just the first thing, that we're open to maybe lift some of the things that we kind of canceled, if that makes sense, because, you know, we went from 10 people to 100 people. So that's just the first point. If I could say a few more things. The second thing, too, that I wanted the council and the mayor, and I was on the DDA meeting last week with the mayor, so he kind of gets some of the things, bring you up to speed. The first thing is like the outdoor seating and the road closures and all that. It is for to get some more people, say, downtown and help business, but it's also because what they're going to allow us is 50% capacity, which means 50% inside and out. As far as my outside little area I have, it would be maybe like 6 people. So with that being said, it's also the inside. If you can have social distancing of 6 feet, it's either 50% if you had a bunch of space, or it's less than that, if that makes any sense. So that's just another reason for some of these things as far as street closures, outside seating. You know, I know a lot of downtowns, Ann Arbor just came out with kind of their plans on closing streets, and they're going to close some for the weekend and some during the week. And, you know, the city of Detroit has a lot of plans, and, you know, as well. And the other thing I wanted to say is like liquor control, which usually is really tough to deal with. I have the sheets if you guys would like to see them, but it's literally like a page and a half that we fill out for, and it has some stipulations, of course. It has to be city approved, and you have to be within 25 feet of your property, but they also would allow something if we did something somewhere else where we had more room. And this is like unprecedented that the Liquor Control Commission actually wants to work with you. You know, they kind of really just rubber stamping these ideas and whatever the city could come up with, and the business owners and all that. So that is my second point. The third point, truly, and June 8th, you guys just, we all appreciate it, that you're going to have this special meeting. And this is maybe more towards Vince and maybe the DDA, or, you know, as far as getting the city to have a thorough plan come. I know everything might not happen really quick, but give some ideas, and Vince just touched on that, to have, you know, to throw some ideas at city council. So we're actually, you know, instead of just talking the whole time, we have a few ideas that, you know, the city could bring to the table, if that makes any sense. And I think that's it. We have a great opportunity for downtown, you know, to grow and thrive and do some different things. And I don't think anyone is I don't think there's gonna be a whole lot of opposition. You know, I remember we had a ton of opposition on, you know, going to 3 lanes on Monroe Street back in the day. And so I just would hope that all you guys can kind of think outside the box. And we'll see you guys next Monday, I guess. I also would like to pray and have, you know, for Corporal Peterson, that her family is in everyone's thoughts and prayers and during these tough times. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bika. Others online? Councilman Moore, you have your hand raised, or is that?
I do. Just in light of what Chris has mentioned, maybe it'd be best to invite the DDA director, Mrs. Knowles, and possibly some other DDA board members to our next meeting, and if we're going to discuss this.
I think I was planning on just letting them know that there would be council discussion regarding that. They're certainly, you know, participating as an attendee of the meeting, like Mr. Beaker just did. So
great, that'll work.
Thank you. See no other comments from those that may be present. Motion in order.
I'll make a motion to adjourn, Your Honor.
Second. Motion by Councilman Kalani, supported by Councilman Lamore to adjourn. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Nicoangeli,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Jermaine,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Thank you all.
okay.
Everybody stay safe.